Hi, welcome to my video on digital storytelling as a tool for truth and reconciliation. Here I am as a young person in Perth, Australia, where I lived from ages 4 to 13. I want to acknowledge the first peoples of the lands on which I grew up. According to nativeland.ca, I was born in Montreal on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, Mohawk, and St. Lawrence Iroquoians. As a child in Australia, I lived on the traditional territory of the Whadjuk peoples. However, according to Aboriginal elder and cultural researcher Tugar Morrison, the first peoples of Perth were actually the Bibbulmun. Now as an adult, I live on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, and Haudenosaunee peoples. I am grateful to these peoples for allowing me to live on this land, and also for being stewards of the land. This background is fitting as the research for this presentation was drawn from work with and by Indigenous peoples of New Zealand, Australia, the Torres Strait Islands, and North America, or Turtle Island. Although there are differences, of course, between Indigenous peoples across the world, they also have aspects in common due to parallel histories of colonization. Many of these groups have also been early adopters of digital technologies, particularly in the United States and Northern Canada. Digital technologies can enhance communication between these communities for global solidarity and strategic alliance. This bridging between Indigenous communities has always existed with, for example, the sharing of stories, trade, and the moccasin telegraph. The key research question I asked was, is digital storytelling, or DST, a culturally responsive tool for Indigenous reparation and reconciliation? Culturally responsive pedagogy is, I quote, an approach that focuses classroom curricula and practice on students' cultural frames of reference, end quote. My research focused more broadly on curricula as a concept larger than the formal classroom, but rather part of any organized learning experience. In order to answer this question, I felt it was important to explore the origins of digital storytelling, as well as the benefits and challenges of this technique as a tool for use by Indigenous individuals within their communities. What follows is a survey of what I read and watched. It became clear that enough research exists to take a deep dive into any of the topics, but this was beyond the scope of this particular video. What is digital storytelling? DST combines oral storytelling with technology, including audio-visual effects such as still images, videos, and music. The practice is rooted in Paulo Freire's pedagogies, which sought to empower people, particularly those marginalized from the mainstream narrative, to tell and retell their stories to transform behavior. One of the first Western institutions devoted to DST, the Center for Digital Storytelling, was founded by Joe Lambert. Its mission sought to support the making of this art for civic engagement. Digital stories are typically 3 to 5 minutes in length, and they usually tell unique personal stories from a first-person perspective. Planning and production are often facilitated through individual work and group facilitation within a workshop model, which includes access to digital technologies and software, and sharing amongst workshop participants. These goals fit with the purpose of Indigenous storytelling, which, according to Gonzalez, is, quote, a medicinal practice and form of traditional knowledge. Stories are part of a mythic mind where psychological truths are transmitted. As such, they provide opportunities to recover personal and communal knowledge, end quote. Storytelling has long been used to pass down knowledge in Indigenous ceremonies, arts, and other cultural practices. Joanne Archibald, also known by her Indigenous name of Pwam Hwekweyam, writes that storytelling is a key tool for Indigenous reconciliation and reparation. Quote, living storied lives has become important for culture and language recovery and revitalization, and for appreciating Indigenous peoples' resiliency and resistance to colonization, which has disrupted storied memory through legislation, education, and policy, end quote. Storytelling, she suggests, holds the power to reignite the embers of this shared remembrance. However, these stories, and I quote, specifically those originating in oral traditions, need to be understood and defined according to the ideologies from which they originate, end quote. Let's move on to looking at how digital storytelling can be understood within the context of Indigenous knowledge frameworks. Recalling that culturally responsive pedagogies are grounded in a community's knowledge framework, various aspects of digital storytelling suggest it is a culturally responsive tool. According to Sue Thomas, technobiophilia is, and I quote, the innate attraction to life and lifelike processes as they appear in technology, end quote. Her curiosity, which led to her research, was the use of nature metaphors to describe cyberspace. Hearn suggests that this merging of nature with technology is why many Indigenous artists and activists have gravitated to the internet as a storytelling tool. For example, she, along with Jolene Rickard, draw parallels between spider figures that feature prominently in Hopi stories and the spider web as part of the origin story of the internet. Another example is the wampum belt as the original hypertext. Wampum belts stored interconnected, nonlinear sign technologies, literacies that have been part of dynamic Indigenous traditions for thousands of years. Land-based metaphors for digital media, such as the web, the rhizome, and the river, have also been featured prominently in Indigenous knowledge. The rhizome, for example, suggests not that the movement from analog to digital represents a developmental progress, but rather the division of one modality into two. This symbolically parallels the use of storytelling in Indigenous cultures from one generation to the next, which allows for the story's survival and continuous regeneration. The rhizome model has been used to describe the activist efforts behind movements such as Idle No More, which uses social media to regenerate and grow the movement across Indigenous communities. While earlier critics were concerned that internet use disconnected Indigenous and non-Indigenous people from their bodies and their land, Loretta Todd remarks that Indigenous communities in particular have used digital media to build bridges between places and bodies. Cyber Powwow is an early example of this. Its success relied on connecting real community sites through digital channels. This is evident during recorded communications during these combined land-based and cyber ceremonies, which always started with participants telling where they are from. In addition to adopting language and concepts from Indigenous worldviews, cyberspace and digital storytelling in particular embraces a multimodal language veering away from just text, which was prioritized by colonial publishing before the internet. This more holistic representation of stories allows for a broader range of expression, including multisensory and emotional. This is more in line with Indigenous ways of knowing than pure text. For example, a Maori DST workshop participant felt the multimodal nature of digital storytelling allowed her to capture spirit through the senses. Archibald, or Huequeum, points out that Indigenous storytelling is often multimodal, combining song and visual art with oral storytelling. Lucas also suggests that computer-assisted learning is culturally appropriate for Indigenous learners. In Indigenous communities, for example, children learn through access to multiple sources: family, community, and their own experience and discoveries. The problem-solving process inherent to Indigenous pedagogies, which includes immediate feedback from the community, parallels that found in children exploring digital technologies. Digital storytelling is a relatively accessible form of personal expression that places the authority and control in the hands of the storyteller. The self-publishing afforded by cyberspace means that, quote, publishing and production companies no longer have a monopoly to decide whose stories are shared and whose voices get to be heard in the grand narrative of our nation, end quote. The narratives of colonization denied our shared reality. Digital narratives have the potential to, quote, fill in the blanks left by dominant narratives, end quote. The control afforded by digital technologies extends to self-representation, working against others speaking for the indigene. Sharing through dissemination is also within the creator's control, including the choice not to disseminate a personal narrative. Quote, keeping information private is as much an assertion of one's control over self-representation as is the choice to share personalized information, end quote. When disseminated according to the storyteller's agency, digital stories can be educative to both Indigenous and non-Indigenous audiences. According to Bissell and Korteweg, the relationality inherent to storytelling and to the typical DST workshop provides a meeting place for both the storyteller and the listener. This bidirectional sharing challenges the frontier logic of colonization, which purports that different cultures inhabit separate realities. They compare this bidirectional sharing to the two tandem forces of indigenizing and decolonizing. The gaze of the camera can be viewed as, quote, a metaphor for Indigenous struggles over control of image, end quote. Singular directionality of the video and film camera can be interpreted as the gaze of colonial sovereignty. Conversely, digital spaces are multi-directional and therefore less hierarchical. They are inclusive of amateur aesthetics and provide access to diverse audiences. This has allowed marginalized groups, particularly Indigenous female artists and activists, to, quote, reverse the gaze, end quote, of the camera towards their own stories and perspectives. Control of media production and dissemination is particularly important given the infiltration of mass media and marketing into Indigenous communities, both rural and urban. Indigenous subversion of the, quote, colonizers' indoctrination, end quote, began before the advent of cyberspace. For example, Zacharias Canuck used the Sony Partipack to turn the camera's gaze to tell the story of his own people, the Arctic Inuit, to offer alternative media to the image of the Inuit portrayed through Western film and television. Digital storytelling continues this narrative of self-representation. According to Gartner and Hearn, quote, digital spaces are Indigenous spaces, end quote, because of their dynamic interconnections and networking. They are spaces familiar to Indigenous peoples whose worldviews favor non-duality. Oral storytelling, for example, favors the mashup, where originality exists within the copy, quote, where change is an inherent part of tradition, end quote, and the past exists within the present and the future. The translation of story to the digital environment reinvigorates the telling. According to Cherokee artist Jimmy Durham, the Indigenous worldview, while rooted in tradition, has never been stagnant. That is, it's adaptable and inclusive of new ways and new materials. Cueva et al. Propose that digital storytelling offers new ways to pass down knowledge that embrace both the old and the new, as well as the past and the present. Digital storytelling offers ways to reframe and reinterpret to understand our present. This reframing was evident in a collection of digital stories by youth called Residential School Resistance Narratives through the Center for Youth and Society at the University of Victoria. All 7 stories included a combination of old and new imagery to reframe the narrative around Indigenous resilience. Another dynamic layer emerges within the multimodal nature of digital stories. Their creation and sharing builds multiple literacy skills, including visual media, internet communication technology, oral and written skills, as well as building subject-related knowledge. An interpersonal building of digital skills promotes social inclusion and civic engagement that is more constructed and structured than superfluous social media engagement. Building these skills can lead to an increased sense of self-efficacy and self-representation.